which I find amazing because I've been called in other levels of consciousness to Switzerland to come for many other reasons, and I never expected that this year I would be in this way, and so I'm glad for that, and also that is 11/11 at 11/11. Which personally for me is very important because my first time explaining, my first time talking to people, my first time giving a message was also at 11/11 of 2011. For me it's a great cycle that ends and begins today. So I'm really glad for that and to be sharing it with you. So for me represented a lot this day. 11/11 for me is a day that represents many things. And once that I talked to my guides why it's so important, they said, oh, nothing happens actually. I was like, so why so many things? Why have you been doing so many things these days if it's not important? That nothing really actually happens. I said, well, the calendar is wrong. Actually, it's not day 11. Actually, nothing happens. There's no conjunction in the skies. So why do we celebrate it? And I said, oh, because it's all in your mind, and the universe is mind. And when we see codes, helps the mind to find a way to balance itself again. And when we see the number 11, is actually the one self finding itself with the other. And that code represents the creation of everything for us and the goal for everything. So, for those who don't know me, I am from Argentina. So, to have 24 minutes for an Argentinian Italian is just a presentation. So I will try to do my best because we speak too much. But to introduce the idea of this one that encoded everything that I do is because since I was born, I was able to remember or to still remember everything that I've done before. Something that we can all do. But this was my task, my mission in this life, so I had to concentrate in that. So since that remembrance, one of the main things that I was led to was to go farther and farther in time until there was no time and only was the unity. So what the unity meant for me, for everyone, in history, in the past, but also in the future. So, since I was a child, I was going back and back in time, trying to remember everything that I lived since the unity. So that's why whatever I am going to say today to you is not the truth. It's actually just one dot of the truth that I had the chance to experience since the very beginning, but it's not all the points of view. My memory is just one line in a sphere, so that could be combined with all the other truths that are around and that we are all sharing today. So in this sphere, my truth, my memory, took me to this very first moment of unity in the universe, which is actually the one. And this one divided itself in two, but not calling it the number 2, but call it 1, 1. This 1, 1 created something that was called the negative inside and the positive outside. So every time that we see the code 11, remembers us, reminds us that we are all one that divided in two in order to experience the third, the three. So in this projection, what the universe has created is that everything actually is only one thing expressing itself in different aspects. And every different aspect will help the whole, everything, to evolve, to understand itself better, to go deeper into what we are able to do. But everything is actually mind. Everything is actually an idea. Nothing really exists. It's just one observing the one. And all the other aspects is just a projection of that. So in this concept of the whole, this concept of the unity, we started to create the universe, started to create an idea that was called the network, the net of consciousness. This net of consciousness is a matrix, a net, that is actually a concept, an idea of connectivity that we call the net, that we call the mind, where nothing actually exists, where nothing actually is real. Everything is basically a process of remembrance, of remembering. And what is the actual concept of remembering? We have three main ideas coming from this remembering. The first remembering means to go back to the origin, go back following all the lines, trying to go back to the very one unity, which is basically what we are all trying to do. We are here for a purpose, we are here for trying to look at a goal, a purpose in our lives, and everything tries to take us to where we came from. What is the origin of everything? Where we created all this. So that's why we are talking all the time about going to unity, going back to where we are, to the main concept of everything, to the very origin of everything. So when we talk about remembering, we usually go to the past. We usually try to understand where we come from. What is the origin of everything that we have created? What is the goal of everything that we have created? So this idea of remembering is something that some of us have been born with, which is trying to help others to remember the past. But we all do this all the time by something that we call reflection. Because unity divided in two, everything that we see outside of us is just a reflection of remembrance. It's a reflection that tries to bring us back to the very origin of ourselves. So we all are reflections of each other, trying to remember us where we come from. But for the universe, there's no past, no present, no future. This is just a perception that we have in the third dimension, in this reality, that actually is not real either. That's why the other point of view of remembering is the second option, which is to put the members together, to connect all the different aspects that have been expressed in the creation. Which means that if we have many different dots or stars or concepts in the universe, what we are doing in this universe is trying to put them all together to try to see the big picture. Why are we here? What is the idea of all this? So, remembering basically is not about understanding the past or going to the origin, but to try to understand our own creation. Why have we expressed all this? Why have we created this reality? And then we have the third option of remembering, which is a word that in English doesn't make sense, but in Spanish it takes us to the root of the word in Latin, which is record, which is go back to the heart, to go back to the heart. The word remember in many other languages represents this, how to go back to the heart. And what is heart? The heart for humans is an organ, the heart for the soul is a chakra, but actually for the universe, heart means the very first pulse of creation, the very first pulse of everything. So we have three concepts of remembering. And the reason why I'm describing these three concepts is because everything that has been existing since this one divided in two is a net of mind that we call a synapsis in the mind of the universe that is trying to connect all the different dots, trying to understand itself, trying to create constantly a new purpose, a new idea, a new mission, a new concept of who we are, of our own reality. And trying to understand a new level, a new dimension of everything. Which means that everything that we do in our lives is not to go back to that unity, to the very origin, to go back home, but it's actually to understand that everywhere is a point of unity, everywhere is a point of connection, everywhere is a new dimension. So it doesn't matter what we do, we are constantly creating another layer of this creation. Which means basically that there is no purpose, there is no mission, there is no God, there is no reason why we do all this. And then suddenly we start to say like, wait a moment. So if we go to the understanding of the universe as mind, so what is the idea of this? Why are we doing all this if there is no purpose, if there is no origin, if everything is just a projection or an idea of the whole? Well, basically, it's because what we usually forget is that this one and this other one, this duality, is not something outside of us. It's not something that created us and that we are trying to understand where is the origin of that creation. Actually, we are that creation and the creator itself constantly. So it means that the purpose of everything is going to exist related to what we start to create as a purpose. That the reality only exists according to what we define as a reality. Which means that if the universe doesn't have a purpose, then we are the part of the universe that can create one. And this is what people usually call free will. But free will is very tricky, because we are living now in the third dimension. So that means that we have only 0.1% of free will, which is basically cool, but not much. Because we are very trapped in a system that we have created at the time that we had free will, when we actually started to create our own reality, which is this one. So the reason why we are living in this third dimension and this reality and the situations that we live today in the world is basically because the mind of the universe, which is us, everyone together as one, as unity, has been designing the option of living this reality, has been designing this purpose that we call life. So there is nothing outside that we can go to or look for unless we imagine that or look for it within ourselves, in our own quantum realm, in our own minds, in our own spirit level. So all the science, the matter, the existence has been designed in order basically to respond to an idea, a purpose that we all as one had at the very origin of this creation. But this very origin is happening all the time, everywhere. Here and now, we call it. So that means that everything that we do, everything that we project in our lives, is creating another layer of another dimension, of another reality, another option. Which means, for example, that if today we are trying to build a new reality, the best way to create this new reality is if we start living that reality we are aiming to live. If we start to set our minds, our hearts, and our action, so the Holy Trinity of the being, what you think, what you feel, and what you do, in balance and coherence. When you find coherence in these three aspects, what we start to do is to actually tune ourselves into the instrument of the creation. So it's not only about I want for this to be different, or I think that this should be different, or I aiming for this to be, I have the intention for it to be different, but it needs a constant action and a constant realization of that through the mind here in the matter. So today, because we have a lot of mind, we have a lot of connections, we have a lot of expansion in social media, in information, we have so many things today. We started to create many ideas that has divided the options of our reality, creating basically more suffering than expansion. And the reason why that happens is because we usually, as humans, started to vibrate very low in order to survive in this reality, to survive in this world. And because we are trying to survive, we set all our minds, our souls, our bodies in terms of connection, of remembering only the things that we can process, which is survival. So, in order to create another option of this reality, what we have to start doing is to set ourselves into this different reality by tiny little actions, thoughts, and feelings that could design a different option for this reality. Even though we are living in one of the most important moments of life in this planet, regarding consciousness, because we are at the edge of a transformation of this world. And not because we are beautiful human beings, but because the Earth is starting to recognize who she is. The Earth is starting to remember. And we can know that the Earth is starting to remember because humanity is starting to remember who we are. So here, related to the entire universe, what we are doing as a planetary consciousness is that we are starting the process to remember that will take approximately 4,000 years. And it started just 200 years ago. So we have time, a few lives more, maybe. So someone is bored of this rebirth. Maybe for at least 4,000 years more, we are going to be experiencing the awakening of consciousness more and more and more. Not because humans are waking up, but because the Earth is reaching the moment of realization. So here the planet started to recognize and reconnect every thought in this awareness, in this consciousness. And every territory of the planet has a specific goal in this remembrance. There are many different parts of this planet that are waking up with their own purpose that has been designed through history, through emotion, through connectivity, through culture, through religion. And all this connectivity that is happening around the planet is related to the holy places or geography of the territories of the planet. So each region of the planet represents a part in the brain of the world that is waking up through a culture, through a religion, through a tradition, through a language. And the planet is starting to think and connect the idea of unity, of who we are, and what can we create in the next level of evolution through what we live in our daily lives. Sometimes we see conflicts, wars, but those conflicts are actually the same way as a disease for our body. It's a calling of attention of a place that is waking up with a lot of energy, but is stuck and doesn't know how to flow properly because there is no coherence. So a conflict in the planet in different regions is talking about a lack of energy or a conflict of energy in the process of waking up. And throughout all these territories, we are here in Switzerland, in Europe, that inside the organism of the planet represents the heart. Woo! Yeah. So, if we take the organs of the planet being formed by millions of years and all the synapses of every tree, of every living being that has been going through these organs, every cell that we call animal, plant, or human, that has been interacting, what we have is that Europe, in general, represents the circulatory system of the planet, or the heart of the planet. And inside of Europe, we have Switzerland, which is the heart of that heart. And what we have here is that there is a specific code in the heart that I said before, which is remember, to record the memory of everything, to go back to the center. So all the systems of the planet are connected somehow in a low frequency or a high frequency with these territories, mainly to the Alps, because these mountains represents the moment of the activation of the heart of the planet. So all the valleys of the ancient Helvetia represents basically the flow of the inner heart of the system. Something that we have to learn how to wake, and that the ancient ones used to call the philosopher's stone. So in these mountains, in these valleys, in this region that today we call Switzerland and Liechtenstein, in those territories, we have a balance of systems that represents the inner awakening of the philosopher's stone. And that represents the activation of the very first power of creation within ourselves, the one that enables us to transform anything into gold, but not real gold, unless someone wants to. But the shining within, which is the actual inner transformation through DNA. So, in this land, the people has a very peculiar work related to the evolution of the planet, which is to mark the path of time, to mark the clock that aligns us to the center of this galaxy through the beating of the heart. And for that, we have a very important task to do, which is how to align ourselves to that heart. And the ancient ones used to say that for that, it's not only meditation, it is about talking to the mountains, connecting again with the stones, as the ancients did, go to the very first technology, which are the plants, the animals, the totems that we had in the plants, and reconnect with the planet Earth that is talking through every human. Every human being is actually a neuron in a planet that is evolving. From the point of view of the universe, humanity is not the main goal. It is the Earth, because it's one of the only planets in this side of the galaxy that accomplished to evolve towards consciousness through cells that today we call humans, tomorrow maybe octopus. But now is our responsibility as humans. So, in this process of evolution that we have since 3 million years ago, we are the pioneers in this planet to start thinking about who we are and going out from the subconscious and the unconscious, trying to find the conscious. So, we have another 3 million years ahead to actually become fully aware. Maybe less if we do it right. But the most important thing is, I think, to recognize that in this mind that is expanding through this one, through this unity, the most important expansion that we can understand in the cosmos is that there's no hurry to do it. Because evolution goes beyond time. So it's more important for us to actually set balance in the remembrance of our heart, to go back to the coherence of our inside, than actually trying to finish something, or accomplish something, or put ourselves a purpose that we have to do in order to save humanity. Actually, we are just a middle point in a long process of evolution towards consciousness. So, we better enjoy it instead of hurry, because when we hurry, we will do it wrong. And we are doing this for the next generations, not in a few years, but in thousands and millions of years. If we do it right now, in our own time, every little step will help in the process of the entire planet as a one unique living being that eventually will bring this consciousness to Mars, Venus, and other planets and other solar systems. So we are the pioneers in that. Mother Earth. So my advice is basically to remind us all that we are not humans living on Earth. We are Earth. And acknowledging that we are Earth, we are part of this unity that was designed in order to find different ways to reach the divine, which is everywhere, and it's within us, and it's not a God, it is us creating this option. And we have decided this millions of years ago. So now we are in the middle of the game, and we have to do it right. Follow our own creation.